Hello and welcome. My name is GuruPathik's, and today we're going to be talking about Aggro Mechanics. Aggro Mechanics are one of the more overlooked aspects of Dota, but learning how to manipulate aggro can substantially improve your laning phase. So we're going to talk about them today. First thing you're going to want to do is you're going to want to enable your console. If you don't know what that is, the way you do this is you go to your Options tab, and there's a button under Application that you want to make sure that you have active, Enabled Console. Then you're going to go to your hotkeys, and you're going to set your console to a very specific button. I like buttons that aren't close to anything that I can accidentally misclick in the middle of a game, because what will happen is it'll put up a black box for your screen, and Dota will essentially be inaccessible while that black box is there. Then you're going to pull up your console and you're going to type Dota range display 500. The reason you type this is that it will create a circle around your hero, and all of the aggro mechanics are based around this 500 AoE circle. So that's the circle we're going to use. This is a cheat, so you have to make sure you load up a bot game where you have cheats enabled, otherwise it will not work. It used to work in actual games, but Admiral Bulldog was using it for EXP range for his offlane lone druid, and Ice Frog felt that was a little bit unfair, so he took that out of the actual game. This is only something you can do in bot games with practice. This circle will persist during all of your bot games, so the way you get rid of it is simply by typing Dota range display 0. I'm just going to show you that you can get rid of that circle, it's no problem. But Dota range display 500 is what we're going to be using today. I'm going to give myself a little bit of gold, and I'm going to buy Boots of Travel, and we're going to go out to the laning phase. So all of these aggro mechanics are related to attacking enemy heroes, which means you're going to need an enemy hero. So I like to create Ogre. Ogre's really tanky and has a lot of regen, so he's a good hero to practice with. So create hero, Ogre, enemy. You can see he's got 7 armor and a bunch of regen. What this means, what this aggro AoE means, is that if you right-click an enemy hero within a 500 AoE, all creeps within this circle will aggro to you. Aggro meaning start to attack you. Aggro is just kind of the term you use. So here all 4 creeps are within that circle. I right click Ogre and the creeps aggro to me. Now one thing you want to notice is that it doesn't actually matter where the Ogre is. Even if he's within attack range or not within attack range. If I right click this Ogre, so for example he's outside this attack range, that creep aggros to me. So he can be on the opposite side of the map and you right clicking him will cause him to attack you. And that's a pretty interesting thing about aggro mechanics. So let's fix our wave a little bit. I want to pull this a specific position. So I'll just show you this again. So standing here, attack, all the creeps aggro to me. Okay, now there are a couple of ways that you can avoid that aggro. The first way that you can avoid that aggro is by being a very specific hero, which is a hero with an orb attack. Orb attacks are things that you can toggle, like poison attack on Viper, or searing arrows on Huskar, or frost arrows on Drow. There's a variety of heroes that can do this, and as long as you're manually using your orb attack, creeps will ignore your aggressive plays. What this means is certain heroes that have these orbs can afford to play more aggressive in situations that other heroes would not normally be able to. So here, for example, right, I can walk into range, and as long as I manually click this orb, the creeps will not aggro to me. The range creeps aggroed to me because I was the closest unit, so you have to kind of be careful of that. But what you can see is that none of these creeps are aggroing. That's one way you can ignore this rule. The other way that you can ignore this rule is by, let's kill these creeps. The other way that you can ignore this rule is by initiating your auto attack outside of this range and then letting your attack go through. And I'll show you an example of that. So here I'm just evening the wave. You can see that no creeps are within that range. I walk up, hit this Ogre. Even though this creep was within range when I made the attack, because I made the aggressive play, while the creep was outside of my range, it did not see my aggression. Therefore, it did not attack me. So I'm going to show you this one again. So Ogre's sitting here, he's farming. We're actually going to move him to a better position. We'll move him here. So here, let's say he's farming this wave. I'm going to walk up and right click him. Boom, didn't pull aggro. Again, walk up, right click him, although that creep wasn't in position, so we'll wait for the next creep wave. Do this one more time. There's a lot of like trying to balance the equilibrium of the lane such that this makes a little bit more sense. So Ogre's standing here. No creeps are within that range. Right click Ogre, walk up and get a right click for free. This is why you'll see supports a lot of times in pro games do this kind of like dipping in and out of lane. They're abusing this 500 AoE circle such that they can get free right clicks off on the enemy hero. Now if you stay for a second attack, the creeps will aggro to you. All the creeps within that range. So make sure you're not sticking around for that second attack. It's only a one free auto attack thing. See how this creep will aggro to me? So next thing I want to talk about is de-aggro. So how do you de-aggro creeps? The main way is simply to run. There's like a 2-second cooldown on these, which means that if you run for 2 seconds, the creeps will essentially de-aggro. That 2 seconds starts from your initial aggro point. So for here, for example, you can see that the creep will aggro to me for 2 seconds, or if I run outside of that 500 aggro range. The other way to de-aggro is to right-click deny your own creeps, and then their aggro will reset. What you have to be careful of with this is you don't want to be the closest unit to them because they will select you as their next target if you're the closest unit again. So here I'm going to right click and then I auto attack deny and then I move such that I'm not the closest creep anymore. And you can see that I've de-aggroed the creeps. Again, auto attack deny, move so I'm not the closest unit. Again, de-aggroing creeps. Those are the two main ways of de-aggroing. Now, let's see. The next thing I want to talk about is selective aggro. So sometimes in the off lane, what you're going to want to do is selectively aggro creeps. So let's see. This ogre is right here. So for example, you're going to want to selectively aggro these creeps and then run away immediately. And the point of doing that is sometimes maybe you want your creeps attacking your own range creeps such that your wave will push. The other thing that you can do is you can do this thing that's called disjoining the wave. And this is pretty difficult because you're essentially going to take advantage of that 2-second rule and aggro creeps multiple times. So here, for example, you pull the aggro and you pull all the creeps. Now what you're going to do is when you pull these creeps, you're going to wait for them to turn, and when they turn, you click the enemy hero again. And what you're going to notice is that this is really difficult to do unless you've practiced a lot, because your camera is going to essentially, you've got to move your camera, click the enemy hero, move back, move your clicking position to be behind the enemy hero. And what you're going to find when you start doing this is that your mouse precision is going to feel really bad. But the point of doing this, disjoining the wave, is essentially so you can farm creeps without getting harassed by yourself. So what you can see is I completely disjointed this creep from the creep wave, and Ogre will be up here farming the creep wave, not bothering me. Now let's go to the mid lane. We'll talk more about these aggro mechanics. I'm going to create another hero. So I'm going to create myself another Ogre in the middle lane. And then I want these creeps to meet in a specific place for this next part. So create hero, Ogre, enemy. And I want the creeps to meet sort of in the river right here. So I'm going to stand right there specifically. So what you're going to notice is that all of the enemy creeps are standing in the river, except for this siege creep. So we'll wait for this siege creep to get into the river. And then I'm going to stand right here. Just wait for the next creep wave to come. So one of the other ways you can avoid this rule is that if you're out of vision. So one thing you'll notice is that all the dire creeps are standing in the river. Oh, except this one. Gotta get rid of this creep. All of the dire creeps are standing in the river such that they can't see me when I stand on my hill. And this is true regardless if it is night or day. It doesn't actually matter. But what this means is that even though some of the creeps may be within that 500 range, if they can't see me, I can actually get free auto attacks off on this Ogre. So I'm going to wait until the next creep wave shows, because it's a better example. The thing you have to be careful of with this is if you stand near your range creeps, you will actually be revealed and pull aggro. The reason for that is units attacking uphill, downhill will actually reveal themselves in a small AoE around them. So you can see I'm within range of those creeps, but because I was out of vision, I did not pull creep aggro. on this creep specifically. So being out of vision is another way that you can essentially get rid of those aggro. Now the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to tank this wave, and we are going to dive under tower, because the next thing to talk about is tower aggro mechanics. Because you can use these rules. These rules are a little bit different for being under the tower, but you can essentially get free last hits under the tower as well if you know how to abuse aggro mechanics as well. This 500 circle doesn't actually matter for towers, but I'm just going to leave it up anyway. What I'm doing is I'm essentially creating a giant double wave that we're going to push the tower with, and I'm going to put the ogre under the tower and talk about aggro mechanics. Now, tower aggro mechanics are all relative to whatever unit is closest to the tower and whether the unit the tower is attacking is dying or not. So the way if you have a big creep wave under the tower and you are the closest unit to the tower and you initiate aggression against the enemy hero, aggro will switch immediately onto your hero, no matter what happens. You can de-aggro towers the same way that you do waves, simply by clicking the creep wave like that. However, if you initiate aggression under a tower and you are not the closest unit and the unit that is being attacked by the tower is not dying, you can get free last hits off on the enemy. So here, you can see units not dying under the tower, free attack. Again, unit not dying under the tower, free attack. Here, I'm going to refresh again so my ogre doesn't die. So, free attack. You just have to make sure that you're not overly aggressive. Because if you're not the closest unit and you just continue attacking like this under the tower will eventually switch to you if you're over aggressive. So you kind of want to dip in, get your auto attack off, dip around, get your next auto attack off, dip around, get your next auto attack off. It doesn't matter that you're under the tower. You can actually get free attacks off that way. And I think what you're going to find is that when you become really versed in these aggro mechanics, is that you're going to be actually getting more attacks off on the enemy hero, which means your regen is going to matter more than theirs, and you're going to find yourself winning lanes a lot more than usual. So I hope this video helped, and I wish you the best working on your aggro mechanics.